Wow.
Welcome, everyone, to a special bonus edition of TNT Live on this Thursday night. Thank you to everyone joining us now or watching at any time later. This is going to be our first ever, Bitcoin-y focused financial stream because this is sort of our pregame before we head down to Bitcoin Miami and become much more well versed in the financial world and decentralized markets and all that. This is sort of what we're doing there, what we see, why we're going down, Bitcoin 101 for beginners to sort of so you can see where we are as beginners getting through the space, and then hopefully by the time we get back from Miami, everyone will have a much better understanding of.
You'll be a millionaire. You'll be a millionaire.
If you listen, the quickest way to become a millionaire is you like this video and share it. If you don't do it, you will be broke. Okay, absolutely broke. So
we're broke right now.
Yeah.
So, can we do the plug at the beginning? So look, we're going to Miami.
We can put it in the thing. There's no one here yet. I can put it. We have a good give, send, go. It's very expensive to go down. We're going down. If you want to support TNT, it's in there. But we'll start off with the news because you're all here. And thanks to everyone who clicked buttons, like, share, subscribe, blah 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 blah. So we do have our Bitcoin cryptocurrency resident expert Neil McKenzie-Sutter, who has been writing a lot of great articles in the last few weeks, and we've given him the opportunity to do a weekly column on this subject. We are under some website construction to add a financial and Bitcoin section. Now the articles are still up there, but we just need to streamline everything a lot better. So lots of great things coming. Neil's a big part of that, and this is sort of our pregame. And so the big news this week is the CBC finally came out and admitted, they couldn't stop the Bitcoin. And this is a real big thing because if you were listening to us and I was, if you believed me, I was on the ground and I told you they couldn't stop the Bitcoin. I saw it get through. And it was essentially the meme from The Office when Michael declares bankruptcy, I declare bankruptcy. And then, the account officer says that's not how it works. But that's kind of what the government did is we declare Bitcoin frozen. And you're like, well, that's not really how it works. You can do that to standard fiat currencies, we've learned. Doug Ford can just steal your money and steal your trucks and steal your property at any time by declaring, I declare emergency. And they can do that to fiat currency, but they cannot do that to Bitcoin.
And
so
I think I think we could say that it's almost kind of like one of the most egregious lies that came out of the CBC's coverage of the Freedom Convoy, because there's of course the stuff where they're trying to.
That's a heavy list.
Yeah, I know it is. And there's a lot of times when the CBC is trying to report things fear-mongering about who's involved in the Freedom Convoy. Are they trying to overthrow the government? Are they far-right activists? Look, there's two flags we found that we don't like at the Freedom Convoy protest in Ottawa. And all that stuff was bad, and they've even been having to retract their articles written about the Freedom Convoy because they had a very obviously political take on it. They were trying to defend the Liberals, mistreatment of protesters and whatnot. But one of the most egregious lies I would argue was the Bitcoin lie, where they're pretending as if the Liberals' claims and Chrystia Freeland's claims that they can freeze Bitcoin was at all legitimate. It's like saying that the government's going to prevent the use of cash. You know what I mean? The government has now frozen cash everywhere. It's that's impossible. It's like saying we've somehow. Even this is kind of more feasible, but it's like the government just saying that we've sort of eliminated gold. It's it's a physical asset. You can't just say it's gone. But the CBC went along with it because I think they were trying to essentially make people fearful of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin at a time when it was clearly what was keeping the Freedom Convoy afloat.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to segue because the first article Neil did write on this subject here was, how authoritarians are struggling to slow down Bitcoin. And Neil rightfully pointed out when they were doing this rhetoric that, this isn't how any of this works. So I think that's a good way to segue. And then, they finally admitted it this week. But Neil, you wrote the article weeks ago, basically saying, no, they can't do this. So I think that's a good way to sort of segue into your experiences being much more adept in this space. And what made that be okay, I'm writing this article.
Dan, it was a funny article, that CBC article that you were talking about. So it's if you read it, it's the most boomer take on cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin I think I've ever read anywhere.
Mine?
So,
Thank you.
no, not yours, but
Oh.
the CBC one specifically, the one that you were commenting on.
Okay, yeah.
Where they admit they couldn't freeze it. So the thing is, though, is I skimmed through it and it was just funny. It was just cracking me up a little bit. But they do mention in there that they actually, so it wasn't a blanket thing, right? I think actually, if you check it out, they mentioned that they actually were able to snare something like 70 or 70 or
no, it's
sorry,
over 70% of the Bitcoin got through. So they got
so it's,
at best 30 was frozen.
I had it in the opposite. I said the opposite thing, but that doesn't surprise me to hear. So it kind of depends on like what happened with this Bitcoin and whether people put it into like a centralized application, which is like a holder for Bitcoin or decentralized one. So if you put it into a centralized exchange or something else, sometimes you have to be careful with the wallets that you're downloading because some of them, like, they market themselves as, oh yeah, we respect your privacy, this and that, but then some of them actually do have a back door to them. So you got to check that out. But you know, if these guys just left it on the exchange and they were able to find out, okay, this is this Bitcoin, we're going to freeze it, they could do that very easily. It's the same thing as with the bank accounts, right? But if it's on a wallet, like a, you know, decentralized wallet, you can't really get to it.
Well, and here's the thing.
Yeah, can I translate that to the new people, sort of what Neil is saying here, and then we'll let you go and why. So it's likely that the 30% they got. So if you know a bit about this, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. So the centralized exchange you're talking about is like Coinbase. So if you have your Bitcoin in your Coinbase account, they can get that. So what anyone in the Bitcoin space would advise you do is, like, once you buy Bitcoin in Coinbase, transfer it to your own wallet. Now there are two types of wallets. There's like in the current, it's like a hot wallet, which is like something like, would that be like the Exodus wallet?
It's like a wallet on your own computer system, whereas a hard wallet or a cold storage wallet is like a memory stick that your exactly. Bitcoin is on. So yeah, when the government was seizing Bitcoin, it's not really seizing it. The whole point is that it's just putting out a court injunction on Coinbase, who is managing your Bitcoin for you. That's the only issue with the exchanges, is that they're effectively dealing with it for you. And then you can take it from them and then put it on a hot storage wallet or a cold storage wallet that are much safer. So that's the only way that the CBC, in its fake news story, was trying to make it seem as if, oh, the government's cracking down on Bitcoin back in the day before they admitted they were wrong. When they admitted they were wrong, they were essentially saying, like, yeah, as long as you don't literally give your Bitcoin to a centralized platform that the government can target, we can't do anything to it. It's like if you buy gold. If you have gold buried in your backyard, the government can't freeze that gold. But if you give your gold to like a central bank, of course they can freeze it. They literally have it.
But the counter to that point, right? Let's say they can't freeze the gold, but if they know you have a bunch of gold buried in your garden, they could send some stormtroopers and confiscate it. And it's not like, okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, like that's not really going to happen. But like, as an example of something that is happening like right now, is you have people leaving Ukraine, right, in that war. They're trying to leave at the border, and what's happening sometimes is they're getting stopped by the border guards, and they're carrying, you know, cash and other valuables and stuff, including gold. And then sometimes these border guards are corrupt, and they're like, I want that, and I'm going to take that some of it or all of it. And the story is, you know, with Bitcoin, if you can memorize like your wallet's password, they can't really do that. So it's slightly better in that regard, right?
And on top of that, you could, and then that's with a hot wallet. But even with cold storage, you can literally have it on a memory stick, so that you're the only one who can access it with this device, and you still need the password and everything. So it's kind of like the security is like doubled.
It's kind of maybe this is a bit much, but there's actually no way to exactly put Bitcoin onto your like take it off the internet. It's always on the internet, right? So when you're using a a hardware or cold wallet, what you're getting an advantage of is when you're inputting your password, you're not ever letting that be seen on like a screen, right? So if I'm using a software wallet or a hot wallet, I could have a virus installed on my computer, and they can see you, right, inputting the password. Like they can put a virus and it's filming your thing, right?
Yeah.
So the advantage with a cold wallet is that is never going to happen. So but the other advantage with that, Wyatt, is that let's say I lose my my cold wallet or my hardware wallet. I lose it or gets damaged or something. I could actually get another one. And there's a recovery phrase that you can put in. Like, let's say I have a Ledger hardware wallet. I have Bitcoin on it. It gets destroyed. I can get another Ledger, and there's an option to go, do you want to set up a new wallet or restore right away when you set that up? I want to recover that, and I'll put in my recovery phrase if I can remember it, if I have the words for that. And because it's on the internet, it'll be there, right? So then again, it's like that's an advantage. Sort of an advantage, disadvantage. If you lose the recovery phrase in that situation,
even then, if you're setting something up like that and you have any significant amount of money in like a cold storage wallet or even any wallet, you should be making sure you have ways of remembering the phrase, of being able to store something that has the phrases, the actual phrase on it in a way that people won't find. But yeah, like of course you just have to be responsible. It's like when you set up a bank account, you don't just sort of say like, yeah, give me like a 7-digit code to access my debit card, but I don't really care to know what it is. Just put in 7 random letters or numbers. Like, of course, you're going to do something that you'll remember and put it in. Yeah. So it's like there's some risks to using Bitcoin, but most people who are using it in any sort of a serious way are going to take it seriously. So it kind of ends up obfuscating any of the issues.
So I don't want to go off too much into kind of boring technical stuff. Like if we don't want to get dragged off onto one subject, like we can move along to other stuff. We'll talk about it, right? And I think we want to do a Q&A thing, right? And we'll answer maybe some people's questions about it if they have it. And it's
do you want to maybe go on to what Dan Wiseman said, that Bitcoin is nothing more than a way for a computer programmer to get rich?
It's not accurate, right?
More words, Neil, because my response to that is that there's actually no way of the guy who programmed it to access anyone else's Bitcoin. So it's essentially the people who designed Bitcoin. The only reason that they maybe made money was that they were the people who founded the way that the system works. So of course they had invested in it early, but they can't make anyone give them money in any way. The whole point is the reason why specifically Bitcoin, other than other cryptocurrencies, is very reliable is it's been essentially set up for complete security and not for any sort of ease of use or sort of some way of like making money. They've essentially set it up just as a way of keeping money safe from the government.
What's the problem with both, right? Like, so these guys, the creators of it, right, they got a cut, right, in the initial stages when they were mining it and they were figuring out how to mine it, right, and they made a lot of money on that.
So they also made the idea work back in 2009. So Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and Paul Allen, they all got really rich off the computers. It's like, because they were in the beginning, and
it's a fine point that you're making, right? And at the same time as these guys were getting paid in Bitcoin back in 2009, that wasn't worth anything. And so they were just gambling on, and they believed in the technology. It wasn't really guaranteed to work though. So they might have been taking pay in like oxygen, right? So they took a risk on in the day, and they were just like, okay, I'm going to get paid.
One of the things I do like about Bitcoin is, from my understanding of it, and again, I'm very much a beginner, is it's sort of set up as just like a pure algorithm type thing. There is no central command. It's totally decentralized. So there is no guy who has access to the Bitcoin system. Even, the guy Satoshi who created it, he can't go into the computer and like fix it or do anything Bitcoin contract. It's like, it's kind of set and it's going. And also like with the decentralized, like it's not like there's one Bitcoin computer. There's hundreds of thousands of computers all over the world that all have the same information. So if you hack one computer with the Bitcoin information, it's totally decentralized. There's still like 250,000 other computers that would have different information. So it would be flagged. And because it's not on all the computers, it wouldn't, it's like you can't hack it because it's totally decentralized. There is there's no main, like, pretend you're in the 1990s or early 2000s and there's like the hacking character, right? He's like, he looks, I don't know. So one of you two would have to be the hacking character. Like, I'm in the system, right? There is no system to get in. So that's one of the safer things about Bitcoin, opposed to other cryptocurrencies, which actually do have some sort of mainframe. So yeah, and there are some meme coins, let's say, out there, and the term meme coin tends to be like Bitcoin's based on something. And again, to properly understand it, maybe Neil can give more things. This is where we're like, we kind of want to go to Bitcoin Miami to like, what is mining? What is like Bitcoin? How is it made? Like, I kind of want to learn these things better. But there are some cryptocurrencies like Dogecoin, for example. Dogecoin is a meme. Like, and it's not based off anything. Like, Ethereum is blockchain, Bitcoin is a thing. Like, those are based off something. And like Ethereum's like you're buying computing power and whatever. Again,
can I make a comment, Dan?
Here's the thing. What they're saying. Sorry.
Can I just make a comment on what you just said?
Yeah.
So here's the thing, that we can make fun of Dogecoin, and it deserves to be made fun of, right? And it's sort of made to be made fun of. It's a joke. It was a joke coin. It's probably actually better managed and more functional than the Canadian dollar and the American dollar. So,
well, just in the fact that nobody's arbitrarily printing. Yeah, it's more so just because people aren't arbitrarily able to create Dogecoin. There's still limited.
Oh,
never mind. Okay, fair.
Doge, it's infinite, right? It's the same thing with the Canadian dollar and the US dollar. What I'm talking about is, okay, when you have a fiat system, you have to have a manager, like a centralized group of people who are managing the currency. And you could make an argument that the current team at Dogecoin who are managing it are actually better people. They're more skilled at what they do than the Bank of Canada or the Federal Reserve or Bank of England, you name it, whatever.
I'd still say that's probably not I'd still say that's probably not an endorsement of Dogecoin, more so just an unendorsement of whoever's managing the Canada's money supply. No, but like the problem with a lot of these sort of meme coins where people are just making them is it's sort of like everyone knows they're basically setting up Brie X and kind of saying a bunch of nonsense about how it's worth a lot. Like everyone knows. It's like Brie X after everyone knows it's not worth anything, and it's kind of a joke, and that's the whole point. It's not like Bitcoin where if you were to make money off of, as a founder, if you were to make money off of Bitcoin, the only way you can make money is by making it incredibly safe. That because they weren't marketing it as, if you buy Bitcoin, you're going to get rich. They were like, if you buy Bitcoin, your money's going to be safe, and that was it. And the only way they've ever been able to make the price of Bitcoin go up is by making people adopt it because they consider it like gold, except online and technically a little bit safer.
That's one reason. That's one reason.
But my point is for the layman, it's kind of like the only reason that it's ever gotten off the ground is due to safety. And just going back to Justin Trudeau a little bit to sort of fill in this context, this is where Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland are driven up a wall by Bitcoin in terms of the Freedom Convoy, because they literally can't comprehend that there is a financial system made that someone isn't someone hasn't basically injected themselves into and made themselves the central command of it. It's so outside of their governmental philosophy that someone would just have a currency that anyone can use and no one can seize it, that they literally thought that this thing that had been around for like 10 years and was famous for not being controllable was not controllable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of the hubris that they didn't they couldn't really hit it. So yeah, I mean, I'll throw it to Neil. Has a good point, but I'll just remind everyone, if you can click the like or share button or all the buttons, it really helps us out in the stream. And if you don't click the like or share button, Krista will come to your backyard and she will take all your gold. So
how many, I can't see how many people we have, but how many do we have a number of people watching?
Yeah, we've got a decent number.
Nice. So do we want to do a plug for the thing?
Well,
so
I mean, you make your point, and then I'll do a commercial plug.
Okay. What was my point? So look, the Bitcoin, it's like we're talking about Bitcoin like, okay, somebody made the program and it was guaranteed to work like it does. and that's not really correct. So, like I'm saying, like when these guys were making it, it wasn't guaranteed that these guys, the original creators, they were going to be rich for sure, and they knew it was sort of a risk, right? That it wasn't going to work, and so in theory, it's possible to actually hack the network, in theory, right? And what they could do is conduct. Who are we talking about? We're talking about a government-sized entity being able to influence the network. They could conduct a 51% plus style attack. And what that means is when you have control of more than 50% of the network, you can start validating incorrect transactions and sending that around. And that screws with the network. And of course, if it's 50%, they eventually figure out something's off, right? But it damages the credibility of the network as a currency system when that happens. So in theory, that's a major threat that could have happened in the early days. But the problem is now that, like you're just observing, Wyatt, is these guys didn't observe Bitcoin as a threat to their system until it had kind of been picked up and it's been widely adopted. The coins have been scattered around, and it's actually impossible now for these guys to get 50% of the network.
And and it's impossible because you need legitimately probably multiple countries all coordinating to try and corrupt the system. But there's way too many.
It's nothing to do with countries, Wyatt. They actually can't do it anymore.
My point is that it's theoretically possible, but it's impossible in the sense that there's too many people invested in validating.
It's not really
validating
possible
blockchain.
Anymore. I just want to make that point. Is like there was a time period they could have done it, but it's actually that time has come and gone, and it is decentralized now because it's so spread out. So many people have.
That's my point. It's only theoretically possible in the sense that technically you could do it, but it's like saying that you could run 1 billion miles if you had all the time in the world. Like just no one's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, like Wyatt saying, you need a coordinated effort of like alien invasion level coordination between every like government and like conscripting people to
is that Dan?
I'm just being pedantic. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I don't think that you're even correct about that necessarily, Dan.
That's good.
That's how secure we're talking about here. That's kind of how confident I am right now. There's price manipulation going on in it, which is not really good, right? But is that equal control of the network? No, and they're not able to pass off fraudulent transactions as real. And the fact is that it was a risk that could have happened in the early days where some big fish could have come in and bought more than 50% when it was worth nothing, right?
Yeah.
But that never happened. And now it's so pricey and the coins there's not enough available for them to do that. They can't grab that.
So we can get into the deflationary aspect. I'll do a plug for you, Neil.
Sure.
So, commercial guys, we are going down to Miami to learn a lot more about this. If you find this conversation interesting and you want to support TNT as we go down there, to sort of fund us, and we're going to document everything. We're going to be doing interviews. Jordan Peterson's there. Aaron Rodgers is there. So if you can't donate to the Give, Send, Go, I understand, but you have to tweet at Aaron Rodgers to talk to me because this is a life goal of mine.
Make Daniel really Bordman's dreams come true.
Yeah,
I'll try and get a photo of Aaron Rodgers carrying Daniel. That's what we're really going down to Miami for.
We're going to play catch together. Aaron Rodgers and I are going to play catch because, listen, Alvin Lazard's basically a tight end at this point. So I'm like the number 2 or 3 wide receiver on the Packers depth chart, and this is where we're at. But no, seriously, again, so we're going to be investing, sort of in equipment to cover it and the tickets and whatever and flights down. If you, believe in the National Telegraph and you like what we do and you're looking for a way to support us, please, if you just got, $5 on hand and you want to support independent media, this is the best way to do it. And if you want to take down, kick the government in the balls, this is another way to do it.
Seriously.
Every dollar given to this cause hurts Klaus Schwab directly in the feelings. He has 4 of them, and we're going to get them.
I just want to emphasize, too, the trip down to Miami when we're going to be covering the Bitcoin convention, of course, but we're also going to be, like Daniel was kind of alluding to, talking to conservative influencers. We're going to be trying to get interviews, not just on Bitcoin, but on other sort of political topics. And we're going to be trying to upgrade our equipment going down So we're covering the conference, we're being able to talk to a lot of people, and then coming back, we'll have a lot of the infrastructure and equipment in order to be able to start actually doing potentially daily shows and other sorts of things like that. So we're trying to make this trip into like a way of us quickly expanding, and even just $5 kind of takes the pressure off us for sort of paying for the whole thing.
Well, sure. So the thing is too, and I think this is fair to highlight, guys, is this is actually a pricey conference. If we decided to go down, it's like, I don't think we realized how much it actually was when we decided to do this. So like we were talking about this and we were like, okay, how can we kind of, manage these costs? How can we manage these costs? And the idea was, okay, there's a give, send, go option, better than GoFundMe, right? And it would seriously help us if we could, get, some donations and stuff. Also, there's the Bitcoin wallet address. If you already have Bitcoin, maybe you want to donate there, but maybe you don't. If you don't,
we understand. Listen, we understand everyone's getting crunched. The government's printing money like crazy, which causes this problem, which is why we're going to the Bitcoin conference to find a solution to get you around inflation, yada, yada, yada. But we got a socialist nonsense party coming up. But let's do that. So one of the things that we should probably talk about is Bitcoin as a deflationary asset, which is the direct counter to inflation. So inflation is on everyone's mind. The Americans are trying to fight inflation. Polyev has gone just inflation. Inflation, inflation is not good. And thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks.
And inflation is caused by a lot of things, but printing money, it's not a stat, 80% of all the money that's ever been printed is been printed since 2020. And this is causing inflation. And Quebec, in order to counter inflation, is handing out $500 to everyone. So handing out money to everyone is also another great way to cause inflation. Universal basic income is like how to create hyperinflation 101, because money is money isn't wealth. Money is a human psychotechnology that quantifies value or debt, however you want to phrase it. And what I mean by this is like a psychotechnology. Sorry?
That's the best definition of money I've ever heard, actually.
Thank you. So a psychotechnology means it's it's created in the human mind, so we believe it. So we believe, it has value or debt, right? And you don't need money when you live in a tribe 3,000 years ago, because it's 100 people, whatever, and okay, Wyatt helped fix my roof, so his, he's out on the hunt. I'll guard his kids because that's a thing, and you keep track of it. But money is great.
Oh yeah, you guys gonna send me that? You're gonna send me that? Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'll give you some berries later. Money is great because it's a way to run an international nation state, because now when someone who's not part of the tribe can come in, you have a way of exchanging things with them. And it's not if they fix your roof and you can only make boots, right? You can't barter properly. So we have a psychotechnology that allows for people to connect. And that's a great thing. The problem is money is a quantification of actual value. So, boots are worth, 1/7 of a roof, let's say. But the way you can make that is money and having dollars, not roofs or boots. It puts everything on the same system. But that's a qualification of value. Money itself is not wealth. So when you print tons of money and you hand people out money for doing nothing, it doesn't create value, which means the value of money gets inflated, right? So if you're getting $2,000 a month, let's say from Justin Trudeau, to sit on your couch smoking weed, sitting on your couch and you're smoking weed, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't provide any value to anyone. I don't benefit by you doing nothing, right? There's certain values to it, right? You have a job, you fix a car, you talk on the internet, whatever it is, there's certain value, right? So internet talking, Hall of Fame football player, there's a hierarchy, all right? So Aaron Rodgers is going to be so happy to meet his hero, which is probably us. I'm just assuming. I just shout out to Aaron Rodgers, who's probably watching right now. So the problem is, under our current monetary system, we're run by morons and radical leftists who think just throwing money at people, because if it's raining money, you're going to grab it. But this doesn't create wealth. It doesn't add wealth. and then it inflates the value of things. It does so. Like the only people who benefit are the rich because they hold hard assets. If you own a home or you own hard assets, you can prevent, because like money is nothing. Who gets really screwed over is like middle class people who have, who have $35,000 in the bank, let's say, all saved up in this, and you're renting or whatever, but you're really saving up for a big purchase. Well, when $35,000 gets inflated, so it's worth $70,000 or was before, you got screwed over. Whereas the people who own property and all hard assets, they don't. So this is why the rich can keep doing this, because they never get hurt by these policies. And this is, the champagne class, the champagne socialists never get hurt by their own idiocy. Bitcoin is deflationary. And by that, it means there's a limited supply. There will only be, I believe, 22 million Bitcoins ever printed. 21 million?
They haven't been mined all of them yet. Not all of them yet.
Yeah.
But they will. There will only be 21 million ever.
Maybe we should also explain what mining is that it's not like when you think mining, you're thinking of you're literally creating it just by finding it. It's more so that people end up mining Bitcoin by verifying the blockchain in terms of verifying all of the transactional history of Bitcoin. And that's where a lot of people need a lot of computing power to be able to do it. And that's what kind of gives Bitcoin part of its value, is that the safety of having people, like, you basically get Bitcoin or granted Bitcoin from verifying that it's legit, all the other transactions that are happening. And that's where I feel like some people don't understand why people trust the system so much. And it's because the system literally runs off of making sure that it's completely legit. Where so often in other banking systems, there's massive errors because there's no one being essentially paid to 24/7 make sure every single thing is correct.
Yes, I mean, mining is, it's not a bad explanation you've given there. I'm not going to be like, you're really, really wrong, because you're not. It's pretty good. And I'm just like, if people are interested to
You're like
check it out,
tiptoeing into saying I'm wrong.
No, just say it.
No,
Like,
not really.
This is
I'm partially kidding.
There was one thing that what you said, which was kind of wrong, but I would say 90% of what you said was right. So I'm like, I'm not really going to care that much about that. If people are really interested to figure out the difference between like mining a cryptocurrency and proof of stake, proof of work, I think that you should check that out. DYOR, right? That's a good idea. But really, Bitcoin is decentralized and it is deflationary. It's fully up and running. So what's really, if you're just learning about Bitcoin, we're assuming here that, okay, we're talking with some maybe slightly old, like maybe a little bit older audience who are a little bit nervous of getting into using apps and stuff. Whereas if we had a younger audience, they'd be like, yeah, I'm going to jump on this new app, right? If you're going to invest in one, let it be Bitcoin, because it's proven at this point, and it is a fully functioning, like there's a lot of these cryptocurrencies that are, they mean well, and they may be very good in the future, but they're still in beta. A lot of them are still in beta. There's very few that are actually finished, including Ethereum. It's not done yet. So they have they're saying, oh, we're going to decentralize it, but it's
so
not
like,
yet.
Essentially, for the layman, is that the verification processes to get verifying the transaction history of those ones is a little bit shaky. It's a little bit easier to manipulate, and the whole point is that maybe a couple of years later they can kind of prove themselves and show that when you make a transaction, there's no way of corrupting it, and that's going to be absolutely permanent.
I would say so. I'm just seeing the comment there, which is that, do NFTs have anything to do with Bitcoin? I would say no at this time. There are people trying to, bring NFTs to the Bitcoin network. I think for the most part, it's not.
It's like they're kind of a scam in a certain sense. I have an artist friend who like literally went to art college, very good graphic designer. Man, it's hilarious if you bring up NFTs, and I like bringing up NFTs around him. I think NFTs are stupid. I like bringing up around him because he will freak out, because as an artist, he only sees them as artists getting their property stolen, turned into basically digital assets for laundering money. So it drives them up a wall, and I love it. So that's the only reason I like NFTs, but don't put money into NFTs.
Yeah, I think from my understanding of NFTs, and I don't like, I'm not in, NFTs are not Bitcoin backed. I think they're Ethereum backed.
Mostly, yeah, correct.
Yeah. So my understanding, and Neil, you can correct me after, is like the process of NFTs is essentially you create some art, you put it online, and then people can buy it for some sort of cryptocurrency.
So mostly it's on Ethereum. You're right. There are other networks that operate it. So the thing is, though, is it's a little bit more interesting than your like we're not talking about Bitcoin here. We're talking about NFTs. But in theory, there are people actually trying to bring NFTs and other like smart contracts to the Bitcoin network, which maybe it's very interesting if they can, make that popular. But the NFTs are a little bit more interesting than just art. So, like, if you think about it, like, what if we have like a diploma, and when you graduate from a college, you're issued, you get your paper, but what if you're issued a NFT? Because that is not, you can't copy and paste that, and it's only one. So that's the whole point of an NFT is it's like a cryptocurrency coin, let's say, but only one, right? So, and that's kind of what you would want that for, right? Is like a piece of documentation that proves ownership, right? So there's more use cases than just art, although art is obviously the same idea there. Actually, I wanted to talk about something that Dan was saying a little bit before, which is that, we're talking about deflation.
Patrick's deficiency at wide receiver and how I'm basically in the starting lineup these days.
No.
Let me give you something.
Exactly.
No, that's not what I was interested in.
Okay. I'm shocked. I don't know why anyone else is talking about anything else, but go for it. If you have something you think is more interesting.
No, you were talking about deflation, right? We were talking about deflation before, and then I jumped off of Wyatt's idea, and I wanted to talk about your idea too. And your idea is that, isn't it, so random and funny that, we have, whoops, Justin Trudeau slipped in a banana peel, and magically we have 80% of the currency printed in the last 2 years. Isn't that so random and weird? So why don't we talk for a second about CBDCs? And so
I think let's do CBDCs after that. But I think we should finish the thing would make Bitcoin deflationary is they're printing less, mining less and less, less Bitcoin. It's let's say if there was 1 million Bitcoins printed, again, I'm pulling numbers of mass. If there's 1 million Bitcoin printed in 2020, there's only 750,000 are printed in 2021. There's only 600,000 being printed this year, and then there's only 500,000 of it. There's less and less Bitcoins being printed each year. So this is what it means by a deflationary asset. But yeah, now let's talk about CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies, which are not Bitcoin, which are not cryptocurrency, which is stuff that dystopian. This is like the Klaus Schwab stuff. CBDCs are Klaus Schwab money.
Right.
So I'll just say it again for Karen to put it in. CBDCs are central bank digital currencies. So this is taking the current financial system. So your Canadian dollars, it puts it all on a system. So basically the government, if they wanted to shut down your bank account, they just click a button. So yikes.
Yeah, I think Karen gets it. So the idea is that, isn't it so random that this inflation is happening like this? It's not random. So these guys are doing it on purpose. And the idea is that, look at this. We happen to have Bitcoin, and it's a solution to the problem of inflation and, potentially, rolling out of CBDCs. We talk about how, look at how in the last, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? And we say the meme now is about 6 months, right? And so when we go back and you look at Satoshi Nakamoto, he's the founder of Bitcoin. He wrote the code for Bitcoin and blockchain, or he invented the concept of the blockchain. And there's also this other group of people who we worked on with Bitcoin called the cypherpunks. They were aware, and it wasn't so many people who were aware, but they could kind of read the tea leaves, and they were like, so here we are, there's a sort of a disturbing trend going back to the 90s, let's say, when work on decentralized currencies began. They were aware that there's the disturbing trend of governments working together with central banks, and it's sort of well, what are they working towards here? And it's like, oh, people would call you a conspiracy theory. Yeah, oh yeah, it's a big conspiracy theory that they're going to roll out a CBDC, right? That's a conspiracy theory, all right. But if you had said that in like whatever 1990 or whatever, or 1995, that's pretty crazy. But these cypherpunk, like these people are computer engineers. Cryptology is the field that they're in. But they're also like, they understood finance and they understood what happened. Like if you go back to 1971 and what's the end game? What was the end game of the dollar after 1971 when Nixon removed the dollar from the gold standard? The end game was to zero. It was always to zero, right? And inflation from the 70s never left. It actually has continued to inflate since 1971. And so these guys were like, okay, we're going to make an alternative. I'm talking about the cypherpunks. They're like, we're going to work on an alternative. We're going to make an alternative because we know what they're going to do. And it doesn't matter that people are going to call us a conspiracy theorist, this and that. They didn't care. And this is pretty, if you go back, these guys are aware, like they're kind of weirdos, right? But they're like, how do we make an alternative to what's coming, the CBDCs? And wait a sec, what if we go a little bit further than that? If we were to invent a currency, what would make the best currency ever? What would we want as components to that currency? And so they eventually, like, it took longer than this. I'm making it sound like it was like, oh, and if you look at Bitcoin, it's like, here, it's like a great program, you should use it. There was a lot of work that went into this, and there were other prototypes, let's say, or other projects that were similar to Bitcoin that failed before. But now we have it, and it's like very convenient, but it wasn't. The people who made Bitcoin, they knew we were going to eventually get to this state where we are now. And so all I can say is,
I think a good example too.
Can I a good example? I just want to address some things in the chat because we said we'd be helping people here. There's two questions that are related. So Michelle saying, so are Canadian trading platforms safe from government being able to freeze your account, or does it have to be non-Canadian platforms to be safe? And then Rob Harris says, pretty sure Bitcoin might not be protected from theft or a good hacker. If you're not tech savvy, watch out. So we kind of covered this, but I'll go over the basics of it. So for Michelle, like the trading platforms, well, none of them are really safe for long. So even the trading platforms advise that you take it off of them as soon as possible. So Coinbase is the biggest one. There's Binance. There's other ones you can use, but I'll just use the example of Coinbase. So you have a Coinbase account, right? So it's
can I comment, Dan? Sorry, can I comment? I feel like
We'll just let him do the nutshell case.
Okay, sure. I mean, sure. Just do it. It's okay. Finish the idea.
So, you have this platform you're buying off of. Can be any one of them. So you connect it to your bank account, you spend $500, you buy $500 of Bitcoin, you then have Bitcoin in this, let's say, Coinbase Canadian trading platform or American trading platform. The government can get that, right? What you then need to do is move that to your own wallet. So you then take it off of, you're supposed to take it off of these trading platforms almost right away. And there's two types of wallets. So for Rob's thing is like, there's hot wallets, which is like a wallet on your computer or your phone, which are pretty safe, but not 100% safe, because if you have a very, very sophisticated hacker, they could put a program and screen capture and get it in your thing. It's an incredible thing to hack a hot wallet, but it can be done. The safest thing that all Bitcoiners have is a cold storage wallet or a hardware wallet. These are like 100% safe. The only problem is like if a tornado hits your house and it flies away and you lose your seed phrase, like if you have the seed phrase, you take it on a cold storage, which means on a little hard drive. Like you can take your Bitcoin and you can put it on a hard drive that's off your computer and no one can get to that. So when you have it in, let's say, your hypothetical Coinbase account, the government can freeze that. If you then take it to a hot wallet, which is what you would use to do transactions or whatever, so you would need some in a hard wallet or hot wallet, sorry. That can be, it's very, very hard to hack. It's pretty safe there, but it's not 100% safe. If you then put it in a cold storage wallet, which is like a hard drive off your computer, that is 100% safe. There's a 0% chance a hacker could get to that because it's not on the system. It's it's like a computer hacking. It's like a computer hacking hacker stealing the cash from out of your wallet. Like that's not how it works. Is that
so? I wanted to comment on those comments. So can you pull those up again? Can you just pop them up again?
Yeah.
Like
So there's two of them. So the first one is from Michelle. So Canadian trading platform safe from the government being able to seize your account, or does it have to be a non-Canadian platform to be safe? And we kind of answer that with the you want to move it to a wallet, right?
I think I just think there's a lot of confusion. So I wanted to comment on it, right? And also, obviously, as Wyatt pointed out at the beginning, the government is trying to terrorize people away from using the technology altogether. And kind of like when you go, oh, are you going to get frozen? Is your money getting stolen? Are you going to be branded a terrorist, right? So I think Dan is basically saying the right thing here. Really, like if you're sort of interested to learn the technology, I can't recommend enough that you just don't start, don't maybe not $500. If you want to spend $500, go do it. Maybe $10 or $50 or something, right? You could start out with. And I recommend Coinbase. Like we're talking, Coinbase gets a lot of flack and stuff, but
pretty easy to use.
If you can use your bank account online, you can use Coinbase. And the idea is that, okay, we have some nightmare stories, right? Where we're talking about, we were chatting with, Ben Ditchter, and he was the Freedom Convoy guy, organizer who, we got a comment from him.
Yeah.
Story. Yeah. And Andy Lee, she got her Coinbase account frozen. Really, unless you're like a big name person, you're probably not going to get targeted. It's okay for you to sign up, just start using the technology, start playing around with it a little bit. Using Coinbase, it's very easy to use. That's the kind of the key. They also have customer service, which you can take advantage of. Not all of them have that. Another cool thing about Coinbase is if you go in there, and people don't tell you this, and they don't even know sometimes, but you can go in there and there's free tutorials. So if you go in there, there's like learn about this cryptocurrency, right? It's called Learn and Earn section in Coinbase. And it's like, okay, here's watch a 1-minute video and we'll pay you in this cryptocurrency. And it's not a very good cryptocurrency. There's one called Stellar. It's not worth very much. But what you can do is they pay you in that cryptocurrency and you can immediately convert that money into Bitcoin. You can do that. There's no limit on that. And so that's just free money, right? And so it's like, I recommend getting set up with that. And then, yes, you can set up a wallet, and it's also pretty easy to do a withdrawal too. So the wallet that I think is really good for beginners is called Exodus. Dan or Wyatt, I don't know if you want to post that, because we're talking about, okay, Coinbase, get onto a centralized exchange and then withdraw it onto a wallet. Why don't we give the people a link to a good wallet?
Well, I think people should almost look a little bit more at information of how Bitcoin works first before sort of jumping in and grabbing a wallet.
If the people are interested,
I want to sort of avoid. I mean, like directly
go to this one specifically, because at the end of the day, people should go find one that works.
I don't work for them, but sure, that's okay.
There's one thing to talk about which ones are good, but there's just a thing of like I'm not in a position where I know enough now to feel comfortable posting this one in the chat. Right, like that's I'm just it's sort of like an ethic. Like I don't want to be
one thing I just want to kind of clarify too with Bitcoin is that it's like there are some people out there who really make their whole lives about Bitcoin, and you'll sometimes bump into them, and they'll kind of like just throw walls of text at like Ayn Randian sort of ideology at you and whatnot of needing to get rid of the government, whatnot. But it's like at the end of the day, Bitcoin's a lot like other financial tools. It's a tool. The whole point is that it's an incredibly safe way of holding certain amounts of money. So it's like if you're investing on the stock market, fair enough. I do that all the time too. But it's like it's a great way of having a few $1,000s that's just untouchable that you can kind of keep away. So like the truckers, even though they're trying to shut down people's bank accounts and whatnot, people always have access to a bunch of Bitcoin. So they can literally go to a Bitcoin ATM that's in a lot of truck stops, and they can actually get cash from that. It's a great way of being able to actually have some money that's literally always accessible to yourself.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I wanted to just, not ignore the second comment though, and just maybe comment on that. So Rob, it sounds like maybe that you are already somewhat familiar with this, but maybe are making this comment for other people's, betterment. Like I'm kind of inferring that. I'm not really sure. Maybe you're not, but really, like it's not a unhelpful comment that you're making. What I recommend is, you can kind of be confident that if you are on a computer, you don't download illegal stuff like, I'm going to download illegal movies, right? You may have a virus on your computer, and don't use Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Like, we're talking about Bitcoin here, not many different ones. But if you're going to do a withdrawal from Coinbase onto your wallet and your computer is, terrible condition, like it barely runs, it's got so many viruses on it, I would be a little bit concerned about that. Make sure it's like a computer that you have like confidence in,
not something where you have like Windows XP and you have like 17 copies of Avatar that you've downloaded from 17 different websites.
That's not necessary to do that. And also your phone.
I only have 15 copies of Avatar on my computer.
Only
I just
15.
like it. I set them all up. It's like, which is the most 3D? I feel attacked.
I remember LimeWire. Oh, they are doing a LimeWire crypto thing. I saw, actually. Apparently, LimeWire is back from the dead. But also your phone. Be conscientious of the fact that a lot of people don't think about this. But when you go to a restaurant or whatever, and when you go into, can I get the Wi-Fi password? There might be other people on that network who can get it. Like, that's an easy hack. So maybe, like, if they're the kind of person how this works, like you only use your personal data, you don't use public Wi-Fi ever, that's probably good, right? You're probably good to use your phone in that case. But if you use public Wi-Fi at all, don't really, and you're concerned about your privacy and security and using crypto, don't use that phone and like a wallet. That's it. So keen observation by Rob there. That's what I wanted to say about that.
There's something else. Someone's asking, like, what is Avatar? Oh, the movie? Yeah, we were just joking around. Don't take it
It was so forgettable.
So Space Pocahontas. That's we'll get off that topic. So just remember, this is the big thing. Like, this was Bill Maher's rant against Bitcoin. So again, this is the type of question that is one of the reasons why we're going down to Bitcoin Miami, because like I want to learn the answer to this, because I hear this type of rhetoric against Bitcoin and it screams, these are the windmill people. Like, this is the same windmill stuff. And I know I hate the windmill, and I think I'm going to hate this question, but I don't know how. And I know how to hate the windmills, right? Everyone agrees with me. We're taking out the windmills. But I don't know how to take out this windmill.
I can sort of answer this. So Amber, I think that you are risking being manipulated by the New World Order people, or what's the World Economic Forum people, where they're like, everything has to be environmentally friendly and you must drive an electric car and this and that, right?
The ESG score, and
there is it's not exactly like, we are going a little bit into the rabbit hole here, but there's the conspiracy theory that this is a criticism being used against Bitcoin specifically because proof of work mining, it is a bit more energy consumptive, right, than proof of stake verification of transactions. But the problem with proof of stake is that it's easier for people to gain influence over the network. So the cost of the energy, like, I don't even know like exactly what the numbers. I feel like they're exaggerated.
It's not 1%. If it was 1% and that was an oddly specific thing taking up that much power, you'd see way more news about it. The fact that you kind of only hear that in the comment sections under Bitcoin videos, and it's just always something that people will say in replies on Twitter, probably means that it's not true. Like, it probably takes a lot of energy, but there's very few things on this planet that take 1% of energy.
But the idea is the trade-off, right? So we're talking about, people don't really dispute the idea that Bitcoin is decentralized, right? So, but there's a price you pay for this kind of security, and then what is the price? And so people are trying to argue when they make this point that, if we can get a better cryptocurrency that uses less energy, wouldn't you be more interested in using that? And then maybe a year or two from now, we hear, we happen to have the Canada coin, and it uses like a fraction of the energy that Bitcoin uses. All right, like, it's not perfect, it's controlled by the government and whatever, but aren't you a little bit more interested in using it now because it's environmentally friendly? Don't fall for that. This is a creeping, weird socialism thing, and Dan's right. Dan's on the money with this.
So here's another criticism from Grigori. I mean, again, so I'm not going to yell at him, but his criticism is Bitcoin using energy is not problematic because of climate change. It's problematic because it uses negative return generating asset. It costs resources to use energy.
Of course, it costs resources to use energy. The amount of resources you would truly have to burn in terms of energy to be able to offset the benefits of Bitcoin in terms of more accurately evaluating the productivity of labor would be insane.
I'm glad that we're sort of still on this line, because this point, can we call up the guy's name? I don't want to be rude to this guy. I don't want to say, hey guy, can we get that guy's name again?
Grigori.
So it's Grigori. This is an incorrect point all in all. So we're not going to argue this point forever. The beauty of Bitcoin, this is a thing that maybe wasn't planned on at all, is that it actually makes these kind of garbage, green energy companies that couldn't generate a profit otherwise profitable. Because what you can do is you can get a windmill and you can put a mining rig on it. So if it's generating power during off-peak energy grid demand times, you can still be generating money if there's wind. So the idea is that, okay, maybe let's acknowledge that, okay, maybe oil and gas, eventually we want to move on to another power source. But for now, we don't have a energy sector, like another solution to oil and gas to fill that role. Well, if you can put a mining rig on, some of these power plants, they can start to turn a profit.
I would also just say, just to add on here, is that a lot of these sort of mining operations for Bitcoin would just be doing something else if they weren't being dedicated to mining and verifying the blockchain. It's not like there's a bunch of servers or a bunch of computers that don't exist. If Bitcoin doesn't exist, that isn't really how it works. Yeah, it's more energy intensive than other things, but it's not like, if Bitcoin didn't exist, then all this money wouldn't be wasted. But yeah, I just want to go to something. He also said the utility of Bitcoin also does not justify any particular price. That's the important consideration for potential investors. I agree. I kind of agree with you a little bit, but it's a little bit, there's more nuance to it that makes Bitcoin valuable. The whole point is that you could make that argument against cash of any sort of type, that the price that is associated with the piece of paper or the piece of plastic is not literally the price of the piece of plastic or the piece of paper. Yes, but the whole point is that we value things that accurately hold that accurately price productivity in society. The whole point is that Bitcoin is accurately holding value of productivity, whereas the problem with cash and other sorts of currencies is not reflecting the actual, it doesn't reflect the productivity that it took to earn that $15. So if I'm making $15 an hour at work and inflation is going crazy, well, the whole point is that the $15 I'm making is not actually being accurately held by the money I'm being paid, whereas Bitcoin is more likely to hold, or is extremely likely to hold value, and that's the whole point. Is that it's kind of worth the investment. It's kind of worth the investment to hold value.
This is one of the things I want to ask the hardcore Bitcoiners when we go down there and get an answer to this, and sort of go out like, again. So when I talk about like money is a human psychotechnology that quantifies debt or value, however you want to call it. So Bitcoin essentially becomes money when people think of it as money. It's like there is no spoon. Like the Bitcoin's big hurdle is getting everyone to believe it is a transactionable asset, and that's like the quest for Bitcoin in a sense there. And gold is more real and viable, but Bitcoin's advantage over gold is you can't really transaction gold feasibly. Like there's no and not everyone can have a scale at their home for. It's very hard for gold to be transactionable in a marketplace. Like you need to mint it, right? But then you just have money again. So what I want to ask the Bitcoin people, their plan is a lot of the people in the Bitcoin community are very like hold oriented, just hold Bitcoin. And it makes people on the outside see Bitcoin as more of an investment and less of money in a sense there. So I'll let you in a second. Is I kind of like, in order for Bitcoin to work, everyone who's sort of hardcore Bitcoin and like hold your Bitcoin because it's going up in value and it's a new thing, like that might be true. But in order to get Bitcoin over the hump, you're going to need to start exchanging Bitcoin for goods and services.
Well, and that's the whole point of the Bitcoin conference in a certain sense, is a lot of people are kind of coming up with more ways of that Bitcoin can be used to be sort of your day-to-day currency that you're utilizing. It's sort of what El Salvador is doing with their president, where they want it to be more of a daily fact of life, that Bitcoin is something that people exchange for goods and services, rather than just being sort of a hold for value the way gold is.
So this is something where actually we are at a disadvantage as people living in the West. So, Wyatt, you've already touched on this idea of El Salvador, and it's sort of happening in a top-down way there, where they're really, really forcing the issue in El Salvador. But it's already happening to a large degree in underdeveloped countries. And it's happening faster than the banking system itself. Like, there's a lot of people in, developing world countries where it's like really not much development at all. They never had a bank account ever in their lives. And that's like, I don't know what it is, something like, maybe I'm totally wrong here, but it's like maybe 20% of people in El Salvador never had a bank account. But they do have a phone. They've always had a phone. They have a smartphone. And so they have used cryptocurrency. Like, I think it's a larger percentage of El Salvador people used cryptocurrency than actually had a bank account. That doesn't mean they didn't use banknotes like the American dollar. They used the American dollar there, but they didn't have an account. And so this is taking off like massively in developing countries. It's being used in Ukraine, right? Right now. So like we're like, it's kind of like for people here in Canada and the United States, it's tough because you have to get over this idea that, Dan, it was Wyatt, you talking about how actually it's a myth that your wage is stable, because it's not. It's unstable in the wrong direction, right? So you're losing money, not really losing money, but your money's losing value, right? But because it's pretty stable in comparison to, let's say, El Salvador, you don't have the motivation to learn about it because it's like, oh, I'm fine, I don't really care. But for a lot of people, they have to get over this mental hurdle, which is like, okay, I have to learn about this technology because I see what's happening, right? But for us, it's work. For us, it's actually work, whereas it's very beneficial for people in these other countries like El Salvador, Venezuela, Venezuela basket case economy, right? Ukraine economy falling apart. It's in a war. Okay, I need some way to store my money. So they go and they find a way to do it and use cryptocurrency. They use Bitcoin. Fact is, there's other currencies they are using too, but Bitcoin they're using, right? Because it's proven. So like this is something where it's like, we got to get going on this, people, like in America and in Canada and stuff. Like we got to kind of force ourselves to use it, right? And it's a disadvantage if you think about it. So, okay, so maybe
this is a good way, because like you guys all sort of know what we're sort of getting at right now with Bitcoin. Of course, there's going to be far more details when we're actually going to the conference, and we're going to be providing a lot of content that's not even Bitcoin related. Like me and Daniel can actually be in the same room for once when we're doing a podcast. That will actually be fun. We can have much better camera work. We're not all stuck in the three boxes. And Neil, but we'll also be sitting on the same couch or something like that. Or maybe we'll make it more fun. We can actually sit on Miami Beach or something like that and do a podcast outdoors where we can get some vitamin D. So that'd be great. We're going to go down to the Bitcoin conference to cover it. We'll be talking to a lot of conservative influencers down there, hopefully getting some great interviews with some big people talking about Bitcoin.
I'm going to talk to some Bitcoin influencers. I'm going to talk to some Bitcoin.
You're a bit more confident at that, so I'll follow your lead. But if you guys can pitch in even just like $5 to help sort of ease the cost of the trip for us, that'd be fantastic. I just have a link in the comment section, and that's just doesn't need to be much. Students. Even if you can contribute nothing, it'd be great once we're going down there. If you can help keep promoting the National Telegraph content, liking our videos. Yeah, that's on the Give Send Go.
Send anybody.
Like, share, subscribe to the thing, like the Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, blah 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 blah. All that stuff helps out too. So thanks so much for being here. There will be another episode of TNT Live, of course, next Tuesday, standard time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Alberta time. I hear Canada is playing in a soccer game right now to determine if we're going to the flopping World Championships. That's exciting. So thanks for spending your time with us. Neil, thanks for coming on. Looking forward to boys' night in Miami. OMG, we're doing it.
Boys' night.
It's gonna be good.
Boys'
we're gonna get some flipping Cosmos.
We're gonna get some flipping Cosmos.
I don't know about that. You guys do that if you want.
Will Wyatt drink a beer? Has Wyatt ever been drunk? We'll find out. It's
illegal.
It's illegal. So we'll have again, and hopefully you'll see this is sort of us before the conference. Hopefully when we do this during and then after, we will be much more informed on the topic. And going forward, there's going to be a lot more content coming on TNT, a lot more diversity. Diversity is our strength at TNT, and a lot after the conference, there's going to be a lot more content coming. So thanks for being here.
I'm actually a woman.
But Neil's a woman. So if you don't support us, you're transphobic. And we'll leave you with that. Good night.